I would now request Mr. Sumant Batra of the Kumaon Literature Festival to address us.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, a very big congratulations to you, Umashankar and Anamita, and each member of your team. As someone who organizes festivals, I know what kind of work goes into producing these 2 days, and the kind of sleepless nights that you mentioned over the preceding few months. And I can see that it is a great start, and something which starts well, I'm sure will end well. It's a great responsibility to speak at a platform where you have such illustrious personalities, such accomplished people. I have never written a book in my life, and I feel that this is a privilege which I consider to be able to say a few words to you. I believe that we, at least I and those that belong to my age, and Umashankar, you mentioned that you are just nearing to become 50, belong to a generation, or rather have a unique distinction of belonging to a generation that is witnessing a unique transition of India. An India which has lived in a closed economy to an India which is living in very aspiring times, hoping that India will become a global superpower. We belong to a generation which has witnessed the days where we had one black and white television in a locality, one television in a locality, to times where you have a television in your hand. Every room in the house has a television. You have more than one telephones that you own today. You are witnessing an economy where you talk of 8%, 9%, 10% GDP, but not, almost less than 6, 4, 5 decades, we were talking of 1.5 to 6% economy. We lived in times where we had balance of payment crisis to a time where we can afford today as a nation to demonetize our currency overnight. Not every generation in our time in the past has witnessed such deep historic moments, times. And neither will, I am sure, in the near future of many decades, will our next generation get to see these times. And such generation owes a great responsibility to its nation to ensure that the transition that takes place, that the country that will pass on to the generation next is a nation that we did not inherit, but someone else will inherit it from us. But all this is fine to aspire to be a global superpower, to aspire to be a part of the nuclear club, global nuclear club. It's absolutely fine to want to sit on the global center stage with the America, with the Germans, with the British, with the Japanese, with the Chinese. It is absolutely fine to send more and more satellites into this space. It is absolutely fine to be able to claim surgical strikes of precision. But I can assure you, at least from my humble experience of having worked in over 25 countries in the last 15 to 20 years, that this alone does not make a nation great. It takes much more. And if I were to describe it in one single word, I would say what truly makes nation a great nation, a superpower in the true sense, is when a nation acquires soft power, an invisible soft power which influences the minds of the world, the people around the world, the humanity, through its art, literature, through dialogue, through what we show from our films, to the poetry that we write, to the art that we paint, to the short stories we leave for our children to read. We've seen this in Cold War. If I were to give you a simplistic example, we've seen how a James Bond movie can be shown around the world to show one particular nation in a particular light. Something which is so impressionable, something which is so provocative, something which compels you to think in a particular way. And that is the power of literature, art, theatre, music. And unless we as a nation recognize it and translate it into its true reality, we would always remain an economy. We would remain an attractive market which grows at 10%, aspires to go at 12%, where investors will come and invest in you. They will like to invest in any market. But when the market dips, they will also go back. They won't invest in your nation. They won't invest in your social fabric. They won't educate their children here. They won't set up their homes here. They will not participate in the growth of you as a nation. And that is why America sold a dream many years ago. A dream of a nation which is economically powerful, militarily powerful, powerful as a space technology, but equally powerful as a soft power. There is nothing wrong in aspiring for a 2-digit GDP figure. It is essential, it is imperative. You can't grow as a nation without that. But where is the aspiration today to produce 2-digit Nobel laureates every 10 years in the field of art, culture, literature? When will we hear a prime minister standing from the ramparts of the Red Fort and saying, I want to set up a ministry so that we can cultivate our children in the field of art, culture, literature, so that we go and aim to get the best of the literary, cultural, social, culinary prizes all over the world. We have to recognize that while every nation looks at India today because we are a great market for them, we are a growing economy, but we will only earn their respect in a true sense the day we become a soft power to reckon with. The day we write poetry which is read in every corner of the world. Where we write short stories which are taught in schools across the borders. That is what will make India great. And we just unfortunately don't seem to see the signals. Canada announced that it will double its cultural budget over the next 5 years. EU decided that they will spend the same amount of money on culture as they would spend on the security of the country. Because the kind of negativity which we produce today at security checks at the airport, at the barriers that you do for checking your car at the hotels, open your dashboard, open your bonnet, open your glove compartment. that can only be offset if we divert the energy of this nation into cultural things. And that is where I guess the responsibility of the literary community also steps in. We owe a responsibility to the generation to follow, to leave for them a better world. We need to, I remember when we did not have technology, when we did not have a television to distract us, we did not have an iPod, iPhone, iPad, whatever to distract us. There was a time when, for us, a bedtime story was a ritual. A conversation around the dining table with your elders where values were passed on to you were the norm. All that is going away because we live in nuclear families where migrations have taken place. We do not have the minimum luxury of our parents, our grandparents, our uncles and aunts living around us and passing on values, stories, the oral traditions to us. The only way we can compensate that is for all the literary community to take on to documenting those stories, those oral traditions, so that the younger generation, the next generation can read them in the books, because they don't have grandfathers, grandmothers to tell them these stories anymore. We owe a responsibility to our younger generation to tell them what kind of landscape India had. The beautiful rivers, the mountains, the landscape, which has all been taken over by the development. They only see high-rises, they only see glass and steel. Writers wrote inspired by the nature. Our children will not know that what Ahmedabad was 50 years, 40 years ago. And we owe a responsibility to tell them that what we were as a country at some point in time. There's nothing wrong in development, but there is also a requirement to honor our history and not forget what we were. And I'm saying this because all of us will come back to our roots at one point in time. When we have tasted success, when we start earning money, we start our holidays by going to the best possible town, the most attractive town in the country. Then we start with Bangkok, Singapore. Then we graduate to London, we start going to New York. Then we start to look at the Rockies. Then we want to do adventure sports. But then all of us want to come back and go back to our village. We want to see our own countryside. At some point in time, we will. And if we will not write about all of that, while we will not have our roots to go back to, we will also have no reference points in our history. We will have nothing to read or write back to or emotionally connect with. It is therefore absolutely imperative that we record and document this important phase in the history of India, which is changing so rapidly that it is almost impossible to comprehend. You make a trip to Ahmedabad, after 2 years, it has changed. So imagine what kind of change 20 years will do to this city, to this country. 2 more points before I wind up. Well, of course, we should write about the issues that are mentioned, but I also think that we need to write to teach our children about the faith, the belief this nation is built on. A society which is free of caste, color, creed. A society where we question, where we tell our children that it is an inclusive India and not exclusive, where everyone has a space to say, to live, to eat whatever they want. We have to tell India, our children, that India cannot be changed by hiding the history, by brushing it under the carpet. India is because India confronts the truth. And therefore, we should continue to inspire them to believe in truth, the truth of India, which is that we are already a great nation. And we just continue to preserve and conserve its sanctity. Thank you so much.